I want to tell you something I've never told anyone in full detail. Not because it's hard to talk about, but because every time I do, every single time, I have to relive the exact moment I looked back over my shoulder on that trail and realized the man behind me wasn't hiking, he was hunting. This happened to me on the Ridgeline Trail in the Cascades, about 40 minutes outside of Portland, Oregon. It was a Saturday in late October, and I almost made it home. I'd been hiking alone for about 3 years by that point. Nothing crazy, day hikes, never overnight, always trails I'd done at least once before. I'm not an expert hiker, but I knew what I was doing. Ridgeline was a trail I'd done twice before, about 7 miles round trip, moderate difficulty, stunning views at the top. On a good weekend, you'd see maybe 20 or 30 other hikers, but I made a mistake that day. I went late. I left the trailhead at 2:45 in the afternoon. Sunset that day was at 5:12. I figured I'd do the first 3 miles, turn around, and be back to my car by 5:30 at the latest, cutting it close, but fine. There were only 2 other cars in the parking lot when I arrived. I barely noticed. I signed the trail register, put on my pack, and started walking. The first mile was perfect. Cool air, leaves everywhere, orange and red. Dead quiet except for the sound of my boots on the trail. I was listening to a podcast. I wasn't paying attention to anything behind me. That was my second mistake. About 1.5 miles in, I stopped to tie my boot. I took out one earbud and I heard something. Footsteps. Not close, maybe 200 feet back, which isn't weird. Other hikers exist. I looked back down the trail and saw a man. Dark jacket, medium height, he had a walking stick. I didn't think anything of it. I finished tying my boot, put my earbud back in, and kept walking. 20 minutes later, I stopped again to drink some water and check my map. I looked back down the trail. He was still there. Same distance, 200 feet back, moving at the exact same pace as me. I told myself he was just a slow hiker, enjoying the same trail. Lots of people hike alone. I was hiking alone. It meant nothing. But something about it felt wrong. I couldn't explain it then. I still can't fully explain it now. It was just this feeling, this low, cold feeling in my stomach, like something wasn't right. I decided to walk faster. For the next 15 minutes, I pushed my pace. I was almost jogging. The trail narrowed significantly here, less used, more overgrown. I hadn't seen another hiker in either direction since I started. At the 2-mile marker, I stopped and spun around fast. He was still there. 200 feet back, same distance, walking stick hitting the ground in a steady rhythm. He had maintained my exact pace, even when I sped up. My heart was in my throat. I made a decision right there. I was turning around. I wasn't going to the summit. I was going back to my car right now. I started walking back down the trail, which meant walking toward him. As I got closer, maybe 50 feet away now, I got my first real look at him. He was older, mid-50s maybe, weathered face, no backpack, no water bottle, no trail snacks, nothing. Who hikes 2 miles into a mountain trail with no water? I nodded at him as I passed. He didn't nod back. He didn't blink. He just turned his head and watched me as I walked by. I walked 30 more feet. Then I heard his footsteps change direction. He had turned around. He was following me back down the trail. I ran. I'm not ashamed to say it. I just ran. I sprinted down that trail, branches whipping my face, pack slamming against my back. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ragged, and underneath it, underneath my own terror, I could hear his walking stick, still hitting the ground,
steady, unhurried. That's what broke me. He wasn't running after me. He didn't need to. He knew those woods, and I had just made the worst mistake possible. I left the trail. I don't know why I did it. Panic, maybe. I cut hard left into the trees, crashing through undergrowth, thinking if I could get around him and back to the trailhead from another angle. But I was completely disoriented within 30 seconds. The trees were dense. The light was almost gone. I had no idea which direction the parking lot was. I stopped behind a large tree and forced myself to be silent. And then I heard it. His walking stick, somewhere to my left, moving slowly through the trees. He had followed me off the trail. I pressed my back against that tree and didn't breathe. The footsteps got closer, then stopped. 30 seconds of complete silence. Then his voice, calm, quiet, like he was commenting on the weather. "You shouldn't be out here alone." I didn't respond. I couldn't. These woods aren't safe after dark." I heard him take one step forward, then another. I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed, as loud as I have ever screamed in my life. I screamed the word help at the top of my lungs, and I ran. I didn't look back. I just picked a direction, and I ran, crashing through branches, tripping over roots, getting back up, running again. I ran until the trees started thinning. I ran until I saw pavement. I burst out of the tree line onto a county road I didn't recognize. A truck was coming. I stepped directly into the lane and waved my arms. They stopped. A couple, middle-aged, confused, frightened by my appearance. I was bleeding from a gash on my forehead from a branch. My jacket was torn. I was hyperventilating. I told them someone was following me in the woods. They locked the doors and called 911. 2 sheriff deputies searched the trail and surrounding area for 2 hours that night. They found no one. No car matching any description I gave. No man matching his description in any database they checked. Just one thing, about 1.5 miles in, right where I'd first seen him. A section of trail where someone had been standing for a very long time. The leaves were pressed down, like someone had stood in one spot, shifting their weight, waiting. The deputies told me it was not uncommon for people to use remote trails to follow hikers. They told me I was smart to run. They told me the outcome in situations like that can go many different ways. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks after that. I never went back to Ridgeline Trail. But about a week later, a friend of mine sent me a news article, local Portland news. A man had been found living in an improvised shelter about 1 mile off the Ridgeline Trail. He had no ID, no explanation for what he was doing there. The article said he had been observed by multiple hikers watching the trail for weeks. They never connected him to me specifically. But I know what he was doing out there, and I know that if I had hesitated even 30 seconds longer, you wouldn't be hearing this story from me. Be careful out there. Always tell someone where you're going, and if something feels wrong on the trail, trust that feeling. It might be the most important decision you ever make.